Hi everyone, welcome to the case study session on social issues in the ethics course brought to you by Sunya IAS. So, for case studies on social issues, you do not need to study anything separately. Use the material that you have studied for society in mains GS paper 1, and you can also use the polity and governance study material used in GS paper 2. The polity and governance part covers a lot of provisions in the form of fundamental rights, directive principles of state policy, fundamental duties. There are different constitutional and statutory bodies which have been created for the benefit of the vulnerable sections of the society. So you can use these pointers or facts that you have studied in polity and governance for GS mains paper 2 in your case studies on social issues, right? So social issues based case studies usually focus on well ingrained social customs, basically customs which are being practiced over the ages, or aspects which are detrimental to a particular section of the society. For example, in the Sabrimala temple, the ritual of women in the age of puberty not being allowed inside the temple has been continuing for centuries, right? However, it impinges on the right of a particular section of the society. So you can be asked a question on this issue, or meeting the concerns and expectations of multiple stakeholders in the society. So because resources are scarce, satisfying one particular group's expectations might lead to hindering the satisfaction of expectations of some other group. So these concerns and expectations are in conflict with each other, and the social issues based case study might be related to this aspect of satisfying the expectations of multiple stakeholders. The first case study that we discuss in this session is question number 3 of GS4 mains paper 2019, section B. An apparel manufacturing company having large number of women employees was losing sales due to various factors. Right, so a lot of factors were contributing to declining sales for this company. The company hired a reputed marketing executive who increased the volume of sales within a short span of time. However, some unconfirmed reports came up regarding his indulgence in sexual harassment at the workplace. After some time, a woman employee launched a formal complaint to the management against the marketing executive about sexually harassing her. Faced with the company's indifference and not taking cognizance of her grievances, she lodged an FIR with the police. Realizing the sensitivity and gravity of the situation, the company called the woman employee to negotiate. In that, she was offered a hefty sum of money to withdraw the complaint and the FIR, and also gave in writing that the marketing executive is not involved in the case. Right, so there is this marketing executive who was hired, and he has given spectacular results. He has increased the sales within a very short span of time, but some unconfirmed reports have come up regarding his indulgence in sexual harassment at the workplace. Sometime later, woman employee has filed a formal complaint to the management, but the company has not taken any action because he is giving spectacular results in terms of sales. So finally, she lodged an FIR with the police, and then the company realized the severity or the seriousness of the situation. The company called the woman not to apologize or make the wrong right, but to negotiate with her. They offered her a lot of money to withdraw the complaint and FIR, and give in writing that the marketing executive is not involved in this particular case, right? So we have to identify the ethical issues involved in this case and what options are available to the women employee. So there are only two questions which have been asked, and we will go through each of these two questions. However, one point that I want to highlight here is that It is a 20 marks question. Only two questions are being asked. Two subparts of a question are being asked. It's a very short case study, right? So you need to distribute your points accordingly between the two subparts. Coming to the analysis, the company is an apparel manufacturing company. So it is into textiles. There are large number of women employees. Sizable number is women. The company has been losing sales due to different factors which have not been mentioned here. So the company hired a reputed marketing executive who has a good track record. He increased the volume of sales within a very short span of time, right? So he has given good results and his performance is up to the mark. But there are unconfirmed reports that he indulges in sexual harassment at the workplace, which is illegal as well as immoral, right? And it is difficult or harsh on the women who work in the workplace. So a woman employee launched a formal complaint to the management, right? She has given a written complaint against the marketing executive about sexually harassing her. The company did not do anything. The company showed indifference and did not take cognizance of her grievances. Then the women employee lodged an FIR with the police. There was a seriousness in the company after getting to know that the FIR has been lodged with the police, and realizing the sensitivity and gravity of the situation, the company called the women employee to negotiate. The main point to note here is that the company did not call the woman employee to apologize or correct the wrong done to her, or to say that they are with her in this problem. However, they called the woman employee to negotiate. So the company offered a hefty sum of money to withdraw the complaint in the FIR and given writing that the marketing executive is not involved in the case, right? So the company gave a large amount of money and the company is saying that you please withdraw this FIR and give in writing that the marketing executive is not involved in the case. So the ethical issues here are the marketing executive is indulging in sexual harassment at the workplace. This is illegal as well as immoral. He is using his work position to gain unfavorable advantage, right? So what is he doing? He's sexually harassing women in the workplace, and then once they complain, he is using his position and his good performance to gain unfavorable advantage, and he's using his leverage over the company management to influence the outcome of the complaint against him. He has persuaded them not to take any action on the complaint of the woman just because of the performance that he is delivering, right? The apparel manufacturing company, it only cares about the business interests and profits over employee welfare. The company apparently does not care about employee welfare at all. Secondly, the company should have an internal complaints committee, which is the mandate of the law, which is the Prevention of Sexual Harassment Act, right? So the company has to have an internal complaints committee, which is comprised of independent people who have to investigate into the incident and give punishment if found guilty, right? So the company is not taking anything seriously under this particular law. So in not taking cognizance of the complaint, the company has shown brazen disregard for its women employees' grievances, right? Basically, the company does not care about the women employees at all. And it also does not have a functioning mechanism where these complaints are investigated properly, right? So the company can be fined for this. In addition to being illegal, the company's step of ignoring sexual harassment at the workplace is also immoral, right? It's completely unethical. After understanding the sensitivity and gravity of the situation, the company still wants to negotiate with the woman employee instead of apologizing and accepting its mistake. They are offering her a hefty sum in return for taking back the case. And this shows scant respect for women's rights, even when the women form a large part of the number of employees, right? Women employees are actually an asset of the company, which they don't care about, right? The women employee complainant, she has done the right thing by complaining to the organization first. She followed the correct hierarchy and the established procedure. She has shown trust in the company system first and trusted them to take action, right? Next, she has shown integrity and forthrightness by filing an FIR against the marketing executive when no action was being taken on her complaint. So, this woman employee has gone ahead and filed an FIR to escalate this issue, right? It takes a lot of courage to fight for your rights, and she has shown it, correct? To stand up for your rights is very important, and a lot of the female employees do not feel comfortable discussing such things for fear that they will be stereotyped and people will talk bad about them instead of the person who has done such a thing. But this woman employee has fought for her rights, right? Then there are other women employees. Other women employees should support the woman employee complainant as it concerns their rights to work safely and respectably in the workplace, right? There's not much which is mentioned about the other women employees in the particular case, but this is an ethical issue and they are an important stakeholder. They should respond with a show of strength so that the company takes their concerns and employee rights seriously, right? Because they are being wronged in a way that one out of them is being treated in such a derogatory manner, right? So they should show strength and show it to the company that it is them who are generating the sales, right? Now we'll address the next part of the question, which is options available to the woman employee. So in this particular case, there are not many options which are available with the woman employee. So either you sign that particular offer of the company or you leave that particular offer, right? So in such cases where you don't have enough number of options or points, what you can do is you can explain the option properly and give merits and demerits, right? So the first option is outrightly reject the offer to negotiate and take the complaint to its logical end, right? So the merits are that it is the ethically correct thing to do. If a woman is facing such a situation at the workplace, she has a moral obligation to stand up and voice her opinion, and personal ethics and values will be satisfied, and she will have inner contentment for raising her voice to fight for her rights, right? The woman employs personal ethics of honesty, integrity and self-respect will be satisfied, and there will be satisfaction in her heart for standing up for herself. Okay, now demerits of this option: this might jeopardize her career because the company and the marketing executive might not do anything to keep her career safe in the company that she is working with. Other companies might also be wary of hiring her, and people might stereotype and judge her that she might have been involved in something, which is what happens usually in the society: victim blaming or victim shaming, right? Then the cost of legal battles and challenges will be exorbitant. There might be legal delays till the time that she is proven innocent, and the marketing executive is held guilty and liable for his act. Like till that particular time, she will have to face a lot of time delays and cost and psychological impact, Then she might also be troubled by the company and the marketing executive, because as you can see from the situation, they are not ready to accept their mistake at all. The second option is to accept the offer of the company and give in writing that the marketing executive is not involved in the case, right? So this is the other option, and the merits are that she will get a hefty sum. The company and marketing executive will not trouble her further, and she can do whatever she wants next, and there will be no hassles of fighting a legal battle. The demerits are that there will be a crisis of conscience because she did not follow the correct path, or she did not do what was right in this particular situation. Then she will face cognitive dissonance for not fighting for her rights. So everyone wants to stand up to people who trouble them, and she will feel guilty if she does not do that and accepts the offer. It will still jeopardize her career if she takes back the allegations, because the other people will think that she had just blamed the marketing executive, and the incident did not have any substance to it. So other companies might be wary and cautious in hiring her. Then this will also put a question mark on her honesty and integrity, because she is saying two things at two different points in time and she is not standing by her words. In this particular question, the question does not ask you which option the women employee should take. The question only asks you what are the options available to the women employee. Right, so you can just mention these two, and if you don't have any further points to write, then you can maybe write one or two points about that this is the option that I will be taking, and give reasons for why you will be opting for that particular option. So some useful keywords for social issues case studies. We have already gone through a lot of keywords in the other videos. So a lot of the keywords are overlapping between these issues. So here we can see that there is moral ambivalence, that people are not sure of which is the morally right thing to do. Then mob action, so this pertains to mob lynching, and the mob basically acquires a character of its own, and because people become anonymous in a mob, and there's diffusion of responsibility, that not no single person can be held responsible for any act of the mob. They do some things which are not legal and which are unethical, right? So these are the two things which help people transform into undesirable versions of themselves if they are part of the mob. Social exclusion, if people are being excluded from public places, or are being treated as untouchables, so this is social exclusion. Social menace, social menace is basically the trouble that the society goes through because of certain phenomena. For instance, drunk driving is a social menace because it hinders the safety of other people and their free movement. Pressure groups, there are pressure groups which try to influence the opinion of people in particularly important issues. For example, media, society, and the NGOs. Right. So society here means important members of the society, reputed members of the society, and what is their opinion. Then you have peace and harmony. So in any conflict situation, you ideally would want to restore peace and harmony as soon as possible. Sensitivity to the feelings of others. This is very important, because only when you're sensitive to the feelings of others, uh, you can be just and calm and composed and take your decisions properly. Humanitarian conflicts. A lot of countries in the world are facing crisis. For instance, Afghanistan, it is a humanitarian conflict because uh, the public is suffering, and you can see the Syria war, the Rohingya persecution. So all of these things are basically humanitarian conflicts in which the communities are suffering for no fault of theirs. Persecution of a community or class or section of people. Persecution basically means targeting a particular group or section of the society to uh, basically harm them, or to basically to their disadvantage because of a particular characteristic like their political affiliation or their race, their caste, their way of living or practices. So this is persecution. Tolerance. You should be tolerant and open to the views of others, even though you might not agree with them. Prejudice. Prejudice is basically biases held by people against certain groups. For instance, one prejudice is that only boys can do well in sports, girls cannot. So this is a bias. Stereotyping. So this basically means that you paint everyone with the same brush as you paint a particular person of that category. For example, if it is a working mother, you might just say that, oh, these are working mothers, they don't have time for their kids, to rear their kids. But you never know, the working mother might be working from home, right? So you can't just judge everyone based on one particular characteristic. And cultural sensitivity. Cultural sensitivity is basically understanding about the cultural values, practices, traditions, and customs of other cultures, right? And not demeaning or degrading them, and not sounding as if you or your culture are more superior to a different culture. Human rights. So everyone is entitled to certain basic rights, which are also mentioned in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Again, even a terrorist is entitled to certain human rights. So you should be aware of what these human rights are. Discrimination is basically doing partiality against someone or something. There can be positive discrimination as well when you favor some person over the others. Gender sensitivity, basically understanding the different dimensions of gender and not making fun of them, or not basically trying to put someone down based on their gender, right? Here gender also includes LGBTQI, right? So that is another thing that you need to keep in mind. Moving on to case study 2. You are posted as an additional superintendent of police in a district. The incidents of lynching over the rumors of child lifting have increased in the state in past few months. Recently, one such incident took place at the government hospital where two brothers who had taken their nephew to a doctor for treatment were misjudged and attacked by the mob over suspicion of child lifting. So you are additional superintendent of police here. So keep that in mind, because police will have different powers and responsibilities as compared to any other administrative officer. Incidents of lynching, mob lynching has been in the news. That is why this case study is being asked. There are a lot of incidents over rumors of child lifting, right? It has increased in the state, and one incident took place at a government hospital where two brothers took their nephew to a doctor for something, for some treatment, and they were attacked by the mob over suspicion of child lifting without verifying. So the police rushed to the spot after receiving the information and rescued the brothers. However, one of them was declared dead on arrival at the hospital. The deceased person was a young leader and potential candidate for the upcoming panchayat elections. The locals from the nearby village, along with the relatives of the deceased person, are protesting and accusing police of negligence. They are claiming the incident as a planned political murder and demanding for arrest of the rival candidate who has strong political backing. So the police has rushed to the spot. They got to know about the incident and they tried to rescue the brothers, but one of them still died. The person who died is a young leader and potential candidate for upcoming panchayat elections. Now the locals and their and the relatives of the leader are protesting, and they think that this has been caused due to negligence of the police, and it is a planned political murder done by the rival candidate who has strong political backing, right? So now the questions being asked here are: identify the stakeholders and various dimensions of the crisis involved in the issue. So this part A has two subparts: identification of stakeholders and the various dimensions of the crisis. Part B: what would be the course of action taken by you to manage the situation as an additional superintendent of police, and suggest the measures to deal with the incidents of lynching. And there are two subparts to part B as well. So since this question has 20 marks, you should ideally divide 5 marks for each subpart, right? Because there are two subparts of the two parts of the question. So in all there are 4 parts. So you should have 5 points for every subpart. Analysis. I am the additional superintendent of police. So I am a part of the police. So I am responsible for law and order. Lynching over the rumors of child lifting is quite frequent in this particular state, and this is illegal and this is a social menace. One incident at the government hospital has occurred where two brothers had taken their nephew to a doctor and they were misjudged and attacked by the mob over suspicion of child lifting. The police rushed to the spot and rescued the brothers, but still one brother was dead on arrival. The deceased person is a young leader and potential candidate for upcoming panchayat elections, right? The locals and relatives of the deceased person protest and accuse police of negligence because they were not there present in the situation. So they are accusing the police, and they have this other theory of conspiracy because they are claiming it as a planned political murder and demanding for arrest of the rival candidate who has strong political backing. So they have this theory in mind that the rival candidate has got this done. Now, stakeholders identification and dimensions of the crisis. So the deceased person, he lost his life due to mob lynching. He was an upcoming promising candidate and he should be given justice, right? Additional superintendent of police, which is you. Your interest is to investigate the incident and bring the culprits to book and pacify the locals and relatives to calm down the situation and bring it under control. For the police, they should be setting a precedent by penalizing the wrongdoers so that it has a deterrent effect on the recurring mob lynching incidents. So the police have high stakes in getting this done because frequent mob lynching incidents perpetuate law and order problems, and the anonymity of a mob and the diffusion of responsibility in a mob lets the perpetrators of crime escape easily without suffering the consequences, right? So that is not something desirable in a society which aims to achieve equality and fairness, and it is not something which is good. So the police should be setting a precedent by penalizing the wrongdoers. The other brother was also attacked by the mob and got injured. He has seen the entire situation and he also needs justice, right? Locals and relatives, they claim it as a planned political murder and hence want to get the rival political candidate arrested, right? So before accusing someone of something, they should at least verify the facts right? And since in this case the facts are not present before the locals and relatives, they are being emotional, and they are being apprehensive, and they think that it is a planned political murder, right? The rival political candidate, he would want the truth to come out so that the false allegations against him can get cleared before the elections. He has not done anything, and he would be interested so that the truth can come out. Public, they deserve to be safe from the incidents of mob lynching. It has happened to this person today, it can happen to anyone else later, right? And they deserve to know the truth of both the candidates so that they can vote on merits and not on allegations. The nephew, he suffers adverse psychological impact due to the mob lynching his uncle in front of him, and he is a minor, right? So all this that has happened might have a deep negative impact on him, and he will need counseling so that he can understand what has happened and move ahead without fear. So the course of action. Now, the first thing that I should do as an additional superintendent of police is to inquire into or investigate into the happenings of the incident and try to find out evidence which points to the culprits, right? I want to find out how all this has happened. So the best thing to do is either take CCTV footage of the hospital in which they had gone, or CCTV footage of the roads where the incident has happened, or you can recreate the sequence of events by taking statements of the witnesses, the doctor at the hospital, hospital staff, the public, the nephew. They can recount the happenings of the incident on that day. Next, you book the culprits under the relevant sections of law. So when you are able to identify the culprits, you need to penalize and punish them. Pacify the flaring temperatures of the locals and the relatives by informing them about the course of investigation. So here tempers are rising high, and you should pacify or calm down the locals and relatives and keep them informed that you are doing this inquiry, and you will keep them updated about the results of the investigation, and assure them that you will take proper action against the culprits. Put the evidence on record and bring out the truth, right? So the public deserves to know the truth. So you should put all the evidences on record and let them know about the final outcome of the case. Finally, give a stringent punishment to the perpetrators of the crime so that next time people don't use the anonymity and diffusion of responsibility of the mob to escape punishment for their heinous crimes. So this will act as a deterrent if you give them the proper punishment and um, show it to other people that you cannot escape if you are a part of the mob. So some measures to deal with the incidents of lynching. One is create public awareness about the debilitating effects of mob lynching on the lives of victims and their families. By doing this, what you are essentially doing is making the public aware of the impact of the life-changing impact such events of mob lynching have on the victims. They lose their son, brother, father, right? So it is a very, very sad event in their lives, and it has far-reaching impact. Maybe the person who was attacked on rumors was the sole breadwinner of the family. So you are essentially destroying one entire family without even verifying or without even checking whether what they are saying is correct or not. So next is you hold the perpetrators of the crime responsible by implementing the new laws which have been enacted to deal with the menace of mob lynching. So of late, a lot of states have enacted different acts, different laws to deal with this menace, and you have to implement them properly. Actively monitor rumors being floated on social media through WhatsApp, Facebook, or Telegram. So you actively monitor if there are any rumors which are being spread and try to nip them in the bud. This can easily be done by the cyber cell, and what you can do is you can create a number on which any citizen can complain against the rumor being circulated. So you will have a ready information about any of the rumors which might gain mass and escalate into something big, and penalize the rumor monger under the relevant provisions of law, right? uh, any person who is spreading misinformation without verifying the veracity on a public scale should be acted against under the law. Finally, you sensitize the public by running information and education campaigns to check the veracity of the information before forwarding it on social media or believing it. So finally, you sensitize the public, and here we are using one keyword, which is information and education campaign. Basically, it means educating or creating awareness among the public on how to check the correctness of the information before they forward it on social media or believe it, right? So such social media literacy can be created through a campaign. Now we move to practice case study 1. So this is one of the recent happenings in our country, and you can see uh, this case study and attempt it and send it to the Sunya team for evaluation. This is one of the previous year questions. So migrant workers have always remained at the socio-economic margins of our society, silently serving as the instrumental labor force of urban economics. The pandemic has brought them into national focus. On announcement of a country-wide lockdown, a very large number of migrant workers decided to move back from their places of employment to their native villages. The non-availability of transport created its own problems. Added to this was the fear of starvation and inconvenience to their families. This caused the migrant workers to demand wages and transport facilities for returning to their villages. Their mental agony was accentuated by multiple factors such as a sudden loss of livelihood, possibility of lack of food, and inability to assist in harvesting their rabi crop due to not being able to reach their home in time. Reports of inadequate response of some districts in providing the essential boarding and lodging arrangements along the way multiplied their fears. You have learned many lessons from this situation when you were tasked to oversee the functioning of the district disaster relief force in your district. In your opinion, what ethical issues arose in the current migrant crisis? What do you understand by an ethical caregiving state? What assistance can the civil society render to mitigate the sufferings of migrants in similar situations? Right? So here you can see a current issue has been taken and put as a mains question. Right? So here you can see how reading newspapers is important, and analyzing issues in your head, and understanding issues from different perspectives is important to answer questions well in the mains exam. Case study 2. Saraswati was a successful IT professional in USA. Moved by a patriotic sense of doing something for the country, she returned to India. Together with some like-minded friends, she formed an NGO to build a school for a poor rural community. The objective of the school was to provide the best quality modern education at a nominal cost. She soon discovered that she has to seek permission from a number of government agencies. The rules and procedures were quite confusing and cumbersome. What frustrated her were delays, callous attitude of officials, and constant demand for bribes. Her experience and the experience of many others like her have deterred people from taking up social service projects. A measure of government control over voluntary social work is necessary, but it should not be exercised in a coercive and corrupt manner. What measures can you suggest to ensure that due control is exercised but well-meaning, honest NGO efforts are not thwarted? Right? So this is a very important issue, because NGOs are one of the pressure groups and one of the main stakeholders in any issue of social importance that you can think of. And here, how much red tape is there, how much government control is there, what are the regulatory mechanisms is very important. So this is a case study on that. Please attempt it and submit it to the Sunya team for evaluation. Thank you. I hope that you liked this session on case studies on social issues, and keep practicing and keep an eye out in the newspaper so that you can understand if any particular social phenomenon is gaining traction, and that can come as a question in the next year's ethics paper.